I still remember that sickening feeling when I first saw the messages. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through her phone, each text confirming what I had suspected for weeks. The late nights at work, the sudden password changes, the mysterious weekend errands. It all made perfect sense now. I wasn't crazy after all. I wish I had been. What are you doing with my phone? Her voice cut through the silence like a knife. I looked up to see her standing in the doorway, her expression shifting from surprise to anger to something worse, contempt. How long? I asked, my voice barely audible. How long has this been going on? She didn't bother denying it. Instead, she laughed, actually laughed, and snatched her phone from my trembling hands. Does it matter? We've been dead for months anyway. Dead? I thought we were just going through a rough patch. I thought we were fighting for us, for the 5 years we'd built together. I'd been trying so hard while she was with him. I want you out, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. Tonight. She rolled her eyes, already packing a bag. Fine. This saves me the trouble of finding the right time to tell you. I stood frozen, watching her move around our bedroom, our home, with casual indifference, as if she were simply leaving for a business trip rather than destroying our marriage. You know what's funny? She said, zipping up her suitcase. You think you're the one ending things, but we both know you can't survive without me. You're pathetic. She walked up to me, close enough that I could smell his cologne on her. You'll crawl back. They always do. Then she was gone, the front door slamming behind her with finality. The house fell into a silence so profound I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. I walked through each room in a daze, touching furniture, looking at photos, trying to understand how my life had imploded so completely in the span of 20 minutes. Our wedding photo mocked me from the mantel. We looked so happy, so in love. Had it all been a lie? How hadn't I seen this coming? That night, I slept on the couch, unable to face our bed. I cycled through emotions like changing TV channels, shock, grief, rage, humiliation, and back again. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Left some things in the bathroom. We'll get them later. No apology. No explanation. Nothing. I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling until dawn broke. By morning, a strange calm had settled over me. In the harsh light of day, her words echoed. You'll crawl back. The absolute certainty in her voice when she said it, like my devotion was a weakness she had always exploited. Something shifted inside me then. A quiet resolve took root where my heart had been shattered hours before. I walked to the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the hollow-eyed stranger staring back at me. Never, I whispered to my reflection. It was a promise to myself more than a response to her. I will never crawl back. I didn't know how I would survive this betrayal. I didn't know how to be alone after years of being us. But in that moment, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I would rather rebuild myself from nothing than return to someone who could discard me so easily. The journey ahead looked impossible, but I had no choice but to take the first step. And so I did, starting with a shower that couldn't wash away the pain, but at least gave me the strength to face the first day of my new, unwanted reality. The first week alone in our house, my house now, was the hardest. I called in sick to work, ignoring concerned messages from colleagues. I couldn't bear to explain what had happened, to make it real by putting it into words. Instead, I existed in a haze of sleepless nights and tasteless meals I barely touched. Her parting words haunted me. You'll crawl back. Each time I remembered them, a fresh wave of humiliation washed over me. Was I really that predictable? That pathetic? The thought made me sick, but I couldn't escape it. On day 8, my phone buzzed with a text from a mutual friend. Saw her at Riverside Cafe with him. Thought you should know. Attached was a photo of them laughing, her hand on his arm, looking happier than she had with me in months. The casual cruelty of it knocked the wind from my lungs. That night, I finally cried, violent, ugly sobs that left me exhausted on the bathroom floor. It felt like mourning a death. In a way it was. The death of us, of the future I had planned, of the person I thought I was. By morning, something had changed. Not healed, nowhere close, but changed. I stood up, looked in the mirror at my haggard reflection, and made a decision. If she expected me to crumble completely, to come crawling back begging for another chance, I would disappoint her. For once, I would disappoint her. I showered, shaved, and went back to work. Colleagues walked on eggshells around me, whispering when they thought I couldn't hear. Word travels fast in small offices. I ignored the pity in their eyes and buried myself in projects I'd been putting off. After work, instead of going home to an empty house filled with memories, I joined a gym. Not because I thought a better body would win her back. I had no illusions about reconciliation, but because I needed somewhere to put all the anger, all the pain. First time, asked the trainer assigned to show me around. I nodded, embarrassed by my obvious inexperience. Everyone starts somewhere, he said with unexpected kindness. The hardest part is showing up. Those words stuck with me. The hardest part is showing up. For the gym, yes, but also for life, for myself, when every instinct screamed to hide away and lick my wounds. 2 weeks turned into a month. I established new routines in the ruins of my old life. Work, gym, occasional dinners with friends brave enough to reach out. I started sleeping on her side of the bed, a small act of reclamation. Meanwhile, social media and mutual friends kept me unwillingly updated on her new life. She'd moved in with him already. They took weekend trips to places we'd planned to visit. Each update was a fresh cut, but the wounds began healing faster. The mutual friend who'd sent that first photo called me. She asked about you, he said hesitantly. Wanted to know how you're doing. What did you tell her? I asked, surprised by my own calm. I told her you're managing. Getting by. A pause. She seemed disappointed, somehow. After hanging up, I sat with that information. Disappointed. Had she expected me to fall apart completely? Was my suffering supposed to validate her choice, assure her she'd been right to leave? 6 weeks after she walked out, I finally packed up her remaining things, the some things she'd texted about but never returned for. I didn't call or text to coordinate. Instead, I left the box with her sister, removing my last excuse to see her again. That night, looking around at the space I'd begun to reclaim, I realized something important. I hadn't thought about crawling back in days. The apartment still echoed with her absence, but each day, that echo grew fainter. I wasn't okay yet, not by a long shot, but for the first time, I believed I would be. Eventually. Someday. And that belief, small as it was, felt like the first real step forward. 3 months after she left, I caught my reflection in a store window and stopped short. The man staring back at me wasn't the hollow-eyed stranger I'd grown accustomed to seeing. 20 pounds lighter, standing straighter, clothes that actually fit, small changes that added up to something significant. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was changing. The routine I'd established had expanded. Work, where I'd recently pitched a new project that my boss had enthusiastically approved. The gym, where I now nodded to regulars who knew me by name. Weekly dinners with friends who no longer treated me like I might shatter. And recently, therapy, the hardest edition, but perhaps the most necessary. Rebuilding after betrayal isn't just about physical changes, my therapist had said during our second session. It's about understanding what you actually want, maybe for the first time. What did I want? The question haunted me as I moved through my days. For so long, my wants had been entangled with hers, subordinate to the relationship. Now, I had to figure out who I was without that framework. I started small, rearranged the furniture, painted the bedroom a color she would have hated, tried restaurants serving cuisines she'd always vetoed. Each choice, however minor, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. At a work happy hour, a colleague from accounting smiled at me over her beer. You seem different lately, she said. More present. We ended up talking until the bar closed, and I surprised myself by asking for her number. Not for anything serious. I wasn't ready for that. But the simple act of connecting with someone new felt monumental. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My stomach dropped when I realized who it was. Heard you're doing well. Good for you. 3 months of silence. And that's what she chose to say. I stared at the message, emotions churning. A month ago, this would have sent me spiraling. Now, I felt something unexpected, pity. The message wasn't about me at all. It was about her, fishing for a response, for validation. I didn't reply. Instead, I went about my day, a client meeting, lunch with a colleague, an evening run that took me past our old favorite restaurant. I glanced in as I passed and felt a twinge, but it was duller now, more memory than pain. Later that night, another text. Can we talk sometime? Just to catch up. What was there to catch up on? How she'd blown up our life. How I'd had to rebuild from scratch. I typed several responses, deleted them all, and finally settled on. I don't think that's a good idea. 3 dots appeared immediately. then disappeared, then reappeared. Finally, I understand. Take care of yourself. The formality of it almost made me laugh. Take care of yourself. As if she had any right to concern after what she'd done. The next day, a mutual friend called. Did she text you? He asked without preamble. How did you know? A sigh. Things aren't going well with the new guy. They're fighting all the time. I think she's starting to realize what she threw away. The words should have given me satisfaction, but instead, they left me feeling strangely empty. Her relationship problems weren't my victory. My victory was waking up each day feeling a little more like myself, a little less defined by what she'd done. That weekend, I went on my first date since the separation. Nothing serious. Coffee with the colleague from accounting. We talked about books and travel and complained about our boss. Normal things. No dramatic confessions, no trauma bonding. It was refreshing in its simplicity. When I got home, there was a missed call from her and a voicemail I didn't listen to. Instead, I deleted it and booked a vacation, a solo trip to the coast I'd been contemplating for weeks. As I confirmed the reservation, I realized I was smiling. That night, I dreamt of her for the first time in weeks. In the dream, she was standing at our front door saying, "You'll crawl back." But instead of feeling devastated, I simply closed the door and walked away. I woke feeling lighter than I had in months, finally understanding. Her power over me was broken, not because I'd stopped caring, but because I'd started caring about myself more. 6 months since she walked out, and life had taken on a rhythm I wouldn't have thought possible in those first dark weeks. The promotion I'd been working toward came through. The project I pitched had impressed not just my boss, but the executive team. My colleagues took me out to celebrate, and for the first time since everything fell apart, I genuinely enjoyed myself without feeling like I was just going through the motions. To new beginnings, toasted my work friend, the one I'd had coffee with. We'd gone on 3 more casual dates since then. Nothing serious, but comfortable. Normal. A reminder that connection was still possible. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from that same mutual friend who'd been my reluctant source of updates. Heads up. She's asking for your new address. Thought you should know. My new address. 3 weeks ago, I'd finally moved out of the house we'd shared. Too many memories. Too much of her lingering in every room despite my attempts to reclaim the space. The new apartment was smaller but filled with only my choices. Furniture she'd never sat on. Dishes she'd never used. A space entirely untouched by our shared history. I didn't respond to the text immediately. Instead, I rejoined the celebration, accepted congratulations, and made plans for a team hiking trip the following weekend. Only when I got home did I reply, "Don't give it to her. Please." The response came quickly. Wasn't planning to. She and the guy are officially done, by the way. Has been for a few weeks now. I sat with that information, waiting for some emotional response, satisfaction, vindication, even renewed hurt. Nothing came. Their relationship status had lost its power to affect me. It was just information now, facts about strangers. The next morning brought another text, this time from her. "Congratulations on the promotion. You always deserved it." How did she know? I hadn't announced it on social media. The mutual friend must have told her, thinking it harmless. Or maybe she was still in touch with other colleagues. The thought of her collecting information about my life made me uneasy. "Thank you," I replied, keeping it simple, polite. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then reappeared. Finally, "I miss talking to you. No pressure, just coffee sometime." I stared at the message, remembering her words from 6 months ago. "You'll crawl back." Was this her attempt to open the door, to give me the opportunity to do exactly what she'd predicted? To validate her belief that I couldn't survive without her? "I'm in a good place now," I wrote back after careful consideration. I don't think meeting would be helpful for either of us. No response for hours. Then, late that night, I made a terrible mistake. I know that now. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say that wouldn't pull me back into her orbit, into the power dynamics that had defined our relationship for years without my realizing it. The next day at work, I was focused, productive, riding the high of my recent success. My team respected me. My ideas were valued. I was building something meaningful, something entirely my own. After work, I met with a realtor. The apartment was fine for now, but with the promotion came the possibility of buying a place. Something permanent. Something mine. As we discussed neighborhoods and mortgage rates, my phone buzzed repeatedly in my pocket. I ignored it. Only later did I check. 5 missed calls from her, and a voicemail I finally forced myself to listen to. Please call me back. I need to talk to you. He wasn't who I thought he was. Nothing was what I thought it would be. I messed up everything, and I just need to explain. Please. The desperation in her voice would once have moved me to immediate action. Now, it only reinforced my decision to maintain distance. Her crisis wasn't my responsibility anymore. That weekend, I went hiking with my colleagues as planned. At the summit, overlooking the valley below, my work friend snapped a photo of me smiling, genuinely happy in the moment. Later, she posted it online with the caption, "New heights with this one." Within an hour, my phone rang. Her name on the screen. I silenced it and put the phone away, choosing instead to be present with the people around me. People who saw me as I was now rather than who I had been. People who had no expectations of me crawling anywhere, only of continuing to climb. 8 months after that devastating night, I signed the papers on my new condo. The realtor handed me the keys with a congratulatory smile, and for a moment, I felt dizzy with the significance of it. A home that was completely mine. A future I'd built from the ashes she'd left behind. First big purchase as a single man? The realtor asked, noticing my expression. First big purchase as myself. I corrected, jingling the keys in my palm. That weekend, friends from work and the gym helped me move. We ordered pizza, drank beer, and christened the place with laughter, something I'd never imagined possible during those first bleak months. My work friends stayed after everyone left, helping me arrange books on shelves and debating the optimal placement for the couch. What do you think? I asked, surveying the half-furnished space. I think it's perfectly you, she said, and kissed me. Not for the first time, but with a new certainty that made my heart race. When she left that night, the place felt warm with possibility rather than empty with absence. The next morning, I was making coffee when someone knocked on my door. Assuming it was a neighbor or perhaps my work friend returning for something forgotten, I opened it without checking. She stood there, the last person I expected to see. Thinner than I remembered, dark circles under her eyes, wearing a jacket I didn't recognize. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the shock of physical presence after so many months rendering us both speechless. How did you find me? I finally managed. Your mother, she admitted. I told her I needed to return something important. Of course, my mother, ever hopeful that we might reconcile despite everything. Can I come in? Please? Just for a minute. Every instinct warned against it, but curiosity won out. I stepped aside, watching as she took in the new space, her eyes lingering on unfamiliar furniture, the wall color I'd chosen, framed photos from hiking trips and social gatherings she hadn't been part of. It's nice, she said quietly. It suits you. What do you want? I asked, keeping my distance, staying by the open door. She wiped at her eyes, and I realized she was crying. I've made the biggest mistake of my life, and I don't know how to fix it. Some things can't be fixed, I said, surprised by the gentleness in my voice. Not forgiveness. I wasn't there yet, might never be, but an absence of the rage that had once consumed me. I know that's what you think, but we had 5 years together. 5 years of building something special. Are you really willing to throw all that away because of one mistake? I didn't throw anything away. You did. You threw it away, packed a bag, and walked out. You told me I'd crawl back, remember? She flinched as if I'd struck her. I was awful. I know that. I was confused and selfish and cruel. But that's not who I really am. No, I said slowly, the realization crystallizing as I spoke. That's exactly who you are. I just refused to see it until you showed me in a way I couldn't ignore. She stepped toward me, eyes pleading. I've changed. These months without you have been hell. Nothing worked out the way I thought it would. He wasn't who I thought he was. So you came back to your second choice? Your safety net? The pathetic husband you assumed would be waiting. No, that's not. She took a shaky breath. You've changed too. I can see that. You look good. Really good. The promotion, the new place. I've heard about all of it. I'm proud of you. The word struck me as fundamentally wrong. Her pride was irrelevant. I hadn't done any of it for her approval. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she continued, gaining confidence when I didn't immediately show her out. About what went wrong between us, about what I really want. And it's you. It's always been you. I just lost sight of that. A knock at the door interrupted whatever she planned to say next. I opened it wider to reveal my work friend, holding up a bag from the bakery down the street. Surprise breakfast, she announced, then stopped short when she saw I wasn't alone. A moment of excruciatingly awkward silence followed. No introductions were necessary. They'd met at company functions before everything fell apart. I should go, my work friend said, already backing away. No, stay, I said firmly, reaching for the bag. We were just finishing up. My wife, soon-to-be ex-wife. The paperwork was already with my lawyer. Looked between us, realization dawning in her eyes. I see, she whispered. I really am too late, aren't I? The question wasn't for me, not really. It was for herself, the final confirmation of what she'd thrown away, of the future that no longer included her. I'll walk you out, I said, not unkindly. At the door, she turned one last time. Are you happy? She asked, and I knew she wanted me to say no, to give her some opening, some reason to keep trying. I'm getting there, I answered honestly. And that's enough for now. After she left, I returned to find my work friend arranging pastries on plates she'd somehow located in my still chaotic kitchen. X? She asked casually, though we both knew the answer. X, I confirmed, and was surprised to realize how right that felt. Not just legally, but emotionally. Finally, completely, X. 1 year to the day since she walked out. The divorce was finally official. I received the notification while at work, a simple email from my lawyer confirming what I'd known for months. My marriage was over. I sat back in my chair and waited for some emotional wave to hit. Grief, relief, something to mark the significance of the moment. Instead, I felt strangely calm. The legal end of our relationship was just a formality. The emotional end had happened long ago. On the night, she'd packed her bag and predicted I'd come crawling back. After work, I declined offers from colleagues to celebrate with drinks. Instead, I went home to my condo, opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving, and took it out to the balcony. As the sun set over the city, I reflected on the year behind me. The pain that had once felt unbearable had faded to a dull ache, then to a distant memory, and finally to something more complex. A chapter closed, a lesson learned, a bullet dodged. I discovered strength I never knew I possessed, built a life that reflected who I truly was rather than who I thought I should be for someone else. My phone buzzed. A text from my work friend, now firmly my girlfriend, asking if I was okay, if I needed company tonight. I smiled at her thoughtfulness, but replied that I'd see her tomorrow as planned. This night was for me, for quiet reflection and private closure. I was almost done with the wine when my doorbell rang. Puzzled, I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked the security camera my tech-savvy friend had insisted on installing. She stood there, clearly dressed for what she considered a significant occasion, hair and makeup done, clutching what looked like an envelope. I considered not answering. I didn't know her a conversation, especially not today. But curiosity won out again. A character flaw, perhaps, or maybe just human nature. Congratulations seems inappropriate, she said when I opened the door, attempting a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Or maybe commiserations. I'm not sure what the protocol is here. Why are you here? I asked directly. Not hostile, just tired of the dance we'd been doing for months. Her periodic attempts at contact, my increasingly firm boundaries. Today felt important, she said. The end of something significant deserves to be marked, doesn't it? I didn't invite her in. Instead, I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. Whatever this conversation was, I didn't want it happening in my space, contaminating the peace I'd fought so hard to create. I have something for you, she said, holding out the envelope. Don't worry, it's not a plea or a love letter. Just something I should have given you a long time ago. Hesitantly, I took it. Inside was a handwritten letter, an apology, detailed and specific, acknowledging the pain she'd caused, the trust she'd broken, the cruelty of her parting words. I've been in therapy, she explained as I read. Working on myself, trying to understand why I did what I did. It doesn't excuse anything, but I thought you deserved to know that I understand now. The damage I caused. How wrong I was. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Thank you, I said, and meant it. This helps. She seemed surprised by my response. It does. Closure isn't about forgetting or even necessarily forgiving, I explained. It's about understanding. And this helps me understand. She nodded slowly. I've also been working on letting go, of the hope that somehow we could find our way back to each other. Good, I said simply. That's healthy. For both of us. A sad smile crossed her face. You really have changed. A year ago, you would have been kinder but weaker. Now you're stronger, but somehow still kind. It's impressive. I didn't do it for you, I reminded her. None of this was about impressing you or proving you wrong or even getting over you. It was about becoming the person I needed to be for myself. I know that now, she said, and I'm trying to do the same. She hesitated. Are you happy? Really happy, I mean. Not just coping or surviving, but thriving. This time, I could answer without reservation. Yes, I am. She nodded, blinking back tears. I'm glad. You deserve that. She took a deep breath. I won't bother you again. I just needed to do this, to close this chapter properly. As she turned to leave, I felt the last piece of the puzzle slide into place. All those months ago, she'd predicted I would crawl back, assuming my love for her would override my self-respect. She'd been so profoundly wrong, not just about my actions, but about the nature of love itself. I hope you find what you're looking for, I called after her, offering the kindness I could now afford to give, secure in the knowledge that it cost me nothing. She paused, looked back one last time. I hope so too. Then she was gone, walking out of my life with more dignity than she'd shown walking out of our marriage. Back inside, I returned to my balcony, to the last glass of wine and the city lights. I thought about the morning after she'd left, when I'd stood broken before the bathroom mirror and whispered never to my reflection, a desperate promise to a man I barely recognized. I'd kept that promise, but more importantly, I discovered that never crawling back wasn't about pride or stubbornness or even righteous anger. It was about finding the courage to walk forward instead, into an unknown future that, despite all odds, had turned out to be brighter than I could have imagined.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.